Teacher Joe. From the beginning of 2020, we started a program at Courtney International based on very strong principles from Cambridge assessment, and we started some programs, some workshops and so on. And then we had COVID interfere, COVID-19, and so I am incorrect and have assumed that you picked up more than you did, and I didn't deliver a strong enough explanation. So I'm going to redo my explanation in this presentation, and I would like you to be mindful when you watch and listen to this. So Cambridge Assessment International, who produce your exams and mark them, and Courtney House have two objectives. One is to optimize the skills for storage of content, and secondly, to increase accurate and speedy retrieval by introducing you to strategies, knowledge about the brain, how you learn, the way you encode memory, and so on. And then, very importantly, is to create self-regulated learners, where you learn to think and you think to learn. You reflect on yourself. The first step to becoming a reflective learner is to understand that you need to acquire knowledge. The person doing the work is doing the learning. You need to study, encode, and store to be able to retrieve, given a question or cue, information that you have stored. So you need to learn and encode the work. You need to encode it into your memory and store it. And then, although there are 6 levels of understanding, we expect you to try to reach the basic level of understanding. So where you actually understand the meaning of the words, you've tried to gain a little bit of understanding by constructing some meaning. There are 4 levels of metacognitive development, starting with the tacit level, where you're just not bothered, you're not aware, you get poor marks, well, you got a poor mark. You don't look at yourself, you don't reflect on how you can improve or make a change. So you have no self-regulation. Then you move through the different levels. You can pause and read them through, and a good, very good start would be for you to decide which level you fall into. And of course, the reflective level, which is the level we all want you to attain, is where you have unlimited self-regulation. So you can reflect, you can look at your own work, you can find for yourself what you do and you don't know. How are you going to implement a strategy to make sure that you improve? So that's the level of the reflective level, and that's where we'd love you all to get to. So pause and read through and see where you're at. This page is self-explanatory in terms of the schedule, so you can have a look-see at the schedule, and I'm not going to explain that to you. You can just pause and look at it. Okay, then we get to the fundamental focus presentation. Why do we have a fundamental focus presentation? Well, it's in the wording. Fundamental is the content that is required that is clear and correct for you to follow and get the basic fundamental information, content. Focus requires you as the learner to direct your focus, to attend to the presentation, to pay all your attention to gathering the information, the content that your teacher is explaining. And presentation is basically it's created to deliver and connect the key content. Your fundamental focus presentation should include the following, but it's not limited to. It should have instructions. You will need this, you must complete this and this task. The questions you ask yourself as a reflective learner are, have I gathered all the materials I need to complete the task? Have I eliminated the distractions around me? Am I going to be able to focus my attention? Is my working space clear? Once we've done a little bit more work with how the brain stores memory, encodes and stores memory, hopefully this will become more and more clear to you. But the titles, subtitles, headings, etc. are fundamentally important to mimicking the way the brain actually learns. Neural pathways are created. So yes, that's why there's a title, a topic. Take note of it. It's there for a reason. Then in terms of goals, it will say the learner will be able to. Now, you need to write that down because that's your goal. And when you finish the work for the week, did you achieve that goal? That should be what you're thinking. How will I know? You must ask yourself how you'll know if you've achieved that goal. Maybe it's doing a quiz or it's doing an activity. And then what steps will I take to achieve the goal? So my teacher wants me to be able to solve an equation in 4 steps. How am I going to get to that? Firstly, I need to make sure I have the information, the content. Then I need to know what the formula is, and then I need to. So you must have your steps. And then look at something like time management. I plan to take 25 minutes to do this task. After 12 and a half minutes, sort of halfway, check and see if you're on track to finish in 25 minutes. Maybe you've allocated too little time. Maybe you've allocated enough time, but you've been distracted, so on. So look at your time management. Before you start, give yourself a time to do something in. And then the academic skills are to use criteria and guidelines to evaluate your work in progress, to control or alter mood and impulsivity. So if you find you've given yourself half an hour, but you're still on question 1 or activity 1, and there's 7 to do, and they're 20 minutes past, well, maybe you've been distracted. Maybe you've been impulsive and you're answering your phone, or you wanted a snack or whatever. So you need to learn to control and alter, if you're not achieving your goal, certain things around you. Reflect. Context will be provided by your teacher. So, in other words, you need to ask yourself, what can I retrieve without referring to my notes or textbooks or the internet? Did I understand the connection between the prior memory, the prior knowledge, and the new content? Can I make that connection? Again, it's a neural pathway situation where you want to try and build strong neural pathways it's vital to ensure that your content is not based on either an incorrect assumption. So you've always thought dolphins were fish, but actually they're mammals, but you think they're fish. So anything you learn about dolphins, you will keep putting them in the fish basket when they should be in the mammal basket. Is it flawed in some way? Have you misunderstood part of the content? Or is it just not there? You don't remember it. So that's why context is so important. And how can you strengthen that connection? How can you make it stronger? How can you make the connection that a dolphin is a mammal and not a fish stronger, so you will remember it correctly next time? Then we have dual coding. Now, for academic memory, so that's implicit and explicit memory, we basically use two senses. That's sight and our hearing, auditory. So vision and auditory. And we've done an exercise on that before with the raindrops. And I think you will admit that you need to pay really serious attention to what you're hearing and seeing. Now, where dual coding comes in is it's using two codes. It's using words and language, and it's using visuals to create one complete picture. So you're working with two of your senses instead of just one. And this can relate to graphs, illustrations, photos, anything that needs to be encoded and stored. And neuroscience proves time and time again that by blending, combining the two, auditory and visual, that your retrieval, encoding, and storage is significantly increased. So again, the academic skill here is you asking yourself, am I able to read and interpret visuals? Am I able to pick up the most important information because I'm listening to what my teacher is emphasizing or what the YouTube lecturer is saying? He repeats words. She underlines things. She'll say, now this is very important, and then she'll tell us what is very important. So it's being able to pick up on those cues. And then lastly, in your FFP, there should be a clarification of key content, examples, analogies, metaphors, characteristics, and or non-examples. So this is not an example. Again, extremely important that you go through it. It helps to clarify, to make that neural pathway stronger. And this is elaborating by adding detail. Now, ideally, if you are reaching towards the reflective level, you will then say, now what examples do I know that I can add? What examples do I know that I can add? Or can I think of my own metaphor or my own analogy? Or is this a good example of a non-example? So again, you're personalizing your work. You're making it personal. Word consciousness. It is incumbent, we are obliged as your teachers to introduce an academic word cache to you, a bank of words, if you will, of between 50 and 60,000 words. Why? So that you are able to correctly and efficiently analyze questions and respond at the highest level of academic writing. That's our obligation. Your obligation, it's incumbent on you to learn the spelling of words, to learn the definition. Literally memorize it. Memorize the definition. So you've memorized the spelling, you've memorized the definition. And then it's up to you to dig into that word, become word conscious. So the academic skills here are making sense of abstract academic vocabulary. Are you able to paraphrase the word? Do you know synonyms and antonyms for the word? Are you able to recognize the root of the word and connect that root to any other roots, Latin and Greek, especially in the sciences and the maths? French roots we have in English. We have a language made up of many other languages which English borrowed. So simply put, the greater your memory for academic words, the deeper your understanding and success is in applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating an excellent academic response. Okay, so the guided notes, guys, is a vital and critical skill set, possibly one of the most important you will need now and into your future, is the ability to take down organized and relevant notes. So what we're doing with the guided notes is we're attempting to help you to see how in different ways you can organize information, incoming content, in a structured and organized way. Again, going back to the brain and how the brain likes to store memory is in an organized way, not in a disorganized way, because a disorganized brain is very difficult to get retrieved memories from. So again, I cannot stress, at any level and in every field, whether it's medicine or it's aeronautical engineering or it is becoming a playwright, you cannot think of this as anything but a critical skill. Reflection again, so your pre-cognitive wrapper, your post-cognitive wrapper, and how you think during the activity. You will become amazingly apt at your studying if you start to ask yourself questions like, have I stored this information effectively? Am I able to understand the wording, or must I go back and check it up? So before and after, your pre-wrapper is to get you thinking about what's to come. And then your post-wrapper is to get you thinking about what you have done. And then during your activity, by using trial and error, failure is your greatest tutor. By making mistakes, you learn, because you learn what not to do. If you think about it. So reflect on the information you've learned, the process the concepts you've learned, express your thoughts on the content you've learned. Cognitive wrappers are essential to self-regulation, learning to think and thinking to learn. So we use the concept in psychology known as the testing effect. So frequent low stakes assessment, which is they're not for marks, are an exceptional tool for you to self-assess, to assess your memory, your competence, Have you stored something efficiently, and can you retrieve it quite quickly and rapidly? So recall or retrieval activities are documented to have an extremely high benefit in terms of strengthening those neural pathways, the good old neural pathway. In other words, if you can retrieve content without looking up the information, you will construct efficient and strong neural pathways. Now, the added bonus about a self-marking quiz or self-marking work is that as you're marking, you're able to immediately identify the gaps. Oh, I didn't get that one correct. Now, that's already in your working memory because you're busy marking it. So you're working with it. You've just done it and now you're working with it. So it's all in your working memory. Go right there and then and find the correct response you should have put in, because it will link to that neural network that's already in your working memory. You should actively seek to fill gaps when you don't know something. Immediately. You don't have to wait for after supper or you first want to do this or that. Right then and there, because that neural network is sitting in your working memory. We'll do lots of work on this in the next few weeks, but honestly, it is so important to fill the gaps as soon as you can. As soon as you can. Okay, and then if we look at Zoom, I'm not going to go through everything, bar to say Zoom is there. The purpose of Zoom is there for your teacher to model the application of the content. By thinking aloud whilst he or she is actually doing a model for you, modeling how you think it through, what you should think, what you shouldn't add, so on and so forth. Zoom is there for you to receive directed practice. So your teacher asking you questions whilst you're busy applying your memory and knowledge. Whilst you're applying, she's saying, do you think that's the best word to use? Or do you think that should be your next step in that equation? So helping you to think. It's directed practice. And then you have guided practice. This is where you ask your own questions. So am I doing this correctly? Does that make sense that and that add up to this? You actually assessing your work as you're doing it. This is so important because, for example, in an exam, you can have started something and the ability to pick up that you're going wrong somewhere before you have now spent another 10 minutes getting to the incorrect answer. It's so important. So you're generating your own questions. At the same time, your teacher's observing what you're doing and able to guide and provide feedback right then and there. Not when the work's finished, during the task. And then, lastly, they're there for you to receive independent practice examples that you must then go away independently and try to complete and submit for assessment for learning. That said, if you go away and you start the practice and you feel you're going nowhere, go back, check up whether you know which formula to use or which structure you should be using. You try to first go back, to reflect, to see how you could do it better or differently. And you might find you've just put in the incorrect number or you're writing a narrative instead of a report. But you need to get that independent practice, because when you write your exams for Cambridge or when you go for an interview for a job one day, or when you're making a decision as a doctor as to whether you should, cut here or there, you have to do that independently. We can't be with you in the Cambridge exam. Love to be, but can't be. So we have to, part of this process is to get you to work independently without us saying, yeah, that's looking great. Keep on, we eventually have to take that away so that when you're in the exam, you're not reliant on our cues that you're on the right track. You need to see if you're on the right track yourself. So with cognitive connection, guys, to develop metacognitive knowledge that you need to be actively involved with and be aware of your own learning. How you encode. What is the best way to encode this material or that content? What is the best way to store information, content, data, and how best to retrieve speedily and accurately, on demand, in a pressured situation? I will include and have been including brief and simple explanations about brain function and processes, but please remember the brain and how we learn is highly complex, and still there are parts of cognition that scientists don't know. They're still guessing. But we have looked, and I have looked and studied for many years the best practices. And that's what this is all about, is trying to give you as many tools, as many strategies as I can in the time that we have together so that you can become a high achiever. Self-regulated, reflective, high achiever. So you can pause this slide if you like. I'm not going to go through everything. Suffice to say, we're going to work on so many different aspects, including time management. There's the Forest app here that I have suggested for time management. We're going to look at different strategies. We're going to look at the science behind studying, the science behind high achievement, and then give you tools to achieve that. There are lots of dangers involved, and I'm going to tell you about those too. Some are really common sense, others are, oh, really? And then, of course, to hope that you form habits that are good for your learning. Okay, so that's where I'm going to wrap it up. I would like to ask that you please go through this mindfully, maybe listen to it a few times, maybe pause and rewind, so that you can possibly understand what this is all about, what I've been on about for a few weeks. I'm sorry I haven't been clear enough, and I hope that this has helped. Your feedback to me needs to be to my WhatsApp number. You all have my WhatsApp number. You can leave a voice note or you can type a message. Is there anything you didn't understand, specifically not understand about my presentation? Or do you have questions you still want me to answer that you feel I've not covered adequately? To my WhatsApp number, please, so I can help you individually in real time. WhatsApp to my number individually. You can voice note as well, and then I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Your time limit for this, I'm going to put quite a stringent time limit on this, is by Friday lunchtime. By Friday lunchtime, because your new cognitive connection activity I'm loading then, and I want you to have basically understood what I've been going on about. So please be honest, be frank. Whether or not you have a question, let me know that you have indeed watched this and that you're fine, you got it, no problems, or you have the following questions or thoughts. Thank you for your half an hour of listening, far too long. I hope you've paused in between and taken a break. Thank you and take care. Bye.